Hello again, it's Noob, and we all know the incredibly popular and, dare I say, slightly iconic Covert companion from Covert Instruments. And I did a review of this and I quite liked it. I thought that all of these tools definitely do work and it's kind of fun. You know, it's a good bypass-centric tool. But it isn't without its flaws, and any of you who own one of these will probably know that. And to be fair, Covert Instruments addressed some of those flaws by bringing out a separate turning tool add-on and a separate sort of riv pick attachment, so that you can carry around some picks and turners and use the tool. But for those of us who don't really want to be expanding the Covert Companion too much, for whatever reason it is, whether it's a size or cost or whatever, and just want the vanilla version to operate a little bit better, I think that I've made a really simple but very, very effective, what I think is a good improvement to the tool. Now, just to make it clear, I'm not saying that the Covert Companion is bad or saying anything bad about Covert Instruments or anything like that, but I do like to make small improvements to things where I think there could be an improvement. And especially when something's so simple, I really think I'm onto something. Bear in mind, what I'm going to show you is my first attempt prototype. It's not a final product or anything like that, and it has its own flaws in its own way too, but I do want to show you what I've done. So, one of the things which I always thought was interesting about the Covert Companion is if you organise it properly, and this isn't organised very well, the tools actually stay in quite snugly, but there is no keychain loop on this. So we now have a keychain loop, and yes, you can see my file marks and stuff on there, ignore those. But the other thing is, if you use some tools like these warded lock bypass tools, it doesn't matter about the flex in the tool, right? You put it in, you turn it, you get an open, done. Warded lock tool, warded lock, put the tool in, give it a turn, and we have the open. So yeah, works fine. But what about the tools where you could really do with a little bit of stability? Things where you really want to have something to push down on so that you don't end up having to do some really strange way of holding this and it being awkward and somewhat ineffective. Like you got a pick and it flops around, and it makes sort of picking something quite hard because you end up sort of holding it like this, and that isn't, to me, very intuitive. So the advantage of this little contraption is not only does it provide a little keychain loop, and yes, it needs a lot of refining, I know that, but this just turns around like that, and now you have a base to take one of your tools. Let's grab a hook, for example, and it just folds over like that. That way you can pinch the tool between your fingers, and this has a natural stop. What's happening here is that these little tabs are resting against the what do you want to call it? The sides? Yeah, the sides of the tool. And it just provides a lock for the actual pick or comb pick or whatever it is to rest on, so you can actually use it. Let me show you. Here's a nice ABUS lock with lots of spools, and we just go in, and you can see how I'm holding it a bit like a pick. Yes, it's a bit wide, and I'll come on to some thoughts on that in a minute. This way I've got it set up, yours will be probably a bit slimmer. And you can just go on, you can see me setting all these spools. I'm literally just holding it, resting my finger on the pick here as I need to. And you know, this is a fun little lock to pick as well. So I've chosen a good one with some nice spools, some good feedback. And this is one of those ones where you just need, you know, a nice bit of control on this lock. Go back through, pick the pins, and we're open. So you can see, honestly, yes, it's a bit wide. The tool can be a bit wide, even when you've got it at its slimmest. But it's still more intuitive to pick like this, I believe, than any sort of combination where it's being held like this and it's all flopping around. Same with the comb picks as well as the hooks and rakes. You just go in, find the position, and again, you can just turn it. You know, it's self-stopping. There's nothing, well, probably if you put like too much force, it would break the tool, but there's nothing that will make that go in. It just makes it so much easier. Same thing when you're raking. You can just sort of rake like it's a normal rake. And then when you've finished, you can literally just fold all your tools in together, turn this back round, and you're good to go. So it might be a little hard to believe, but I thought of this design well over a year ago. I drew some paper concepts in a notepad, as I often do, and I thought, oh, do you know what? When I can be bothered, when the weather's nice enough, I'll just go make a prototype. And I started out with some bits of plastic takeaway carton and tried to do some gluing. And then I was like, actually, my original thought was with using metal sheet that it would actually be like a little shape which you could fold. Yeah, something like that. So, and this is what I came up with. And by the way, all the hole placements are terrible on this. But again, you can see the point. Imagine that was just a piece of stamped or cut or laser cut water jet. Doesn't really matter. Piece of metal. Be nice if it was as thin as this. About like it to be like something like a 0.5 millimeter of steel. This is actually, I think, somewhere nearer 0.7, 0.8 millimeters. But you can imagine using something which was a nice thin but strong steel. You could laser cut or water jet this out, maybe even punch it or whatever, and then you'd make it so that these fold in with maybe one side just sprung out a tiny bit. One, to ensure a good fit when you do screw it down, and two, you need some way to actually get the tools on. I might show you that in a second as well. You might be thinking, well, yeah, but doesn't this come in multiple sizes? Like, you can't make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different sizes. Actually, I thought of that as well. These are the spaces inside the Covert companion. I've got 3 in there at the moment. I'm almost certain, I think 2 would be better, and you can remove some of these little washers and all. Look at the stack I've got here. You remove those to make it thinner, but you can imagine that if I only had 2 in there, and then you could just have one which is a bit thinner as well. It would work exactly the same. It would just be a little less wide. And because of the spacers, it can only be a certain width. Just it's limited by the spacers that come with the Covert companion. So I think you could probably get away with really just having 2 different sizes, one for the 3 and one for the 2. And if you really wanted, you could put one at both ends. I don't think it's necessary. A lot of the other tools, like I said, they don't warrant needing a specific stop. All of these can be used just by pulling or twisting. But anything where it benefits to have something which stops the pick, then I think this tiny, 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 very, very easy to make contraption really improves what is an already good design. Just by making the tools that are inside it really, really like so much more intuitive to use. Let me take this apart a little bit, and I'll show you how it looks and how I'll get the tools stacked in and all that kind of stuff. So you can see that this has been sort of compressed down. I had to use this thicker brass because that's all I had. Really, you just need to have a little bit of a gap. You can usually just imagine if it's a bit thinner metal, which you could just bend out a bit. And by the way, you wouldn't do this very often. You don't need to do this once when you're installing it and you're happy. But yeah, you just need it to flex out a little bit, enough to be able to slide out. Can you see this? The tools or the spacers as you need. It doesn't need a big gap. It really doesn't. You know, you just need enough that you can put the spacers in and remove them like this. Oh, getting them everywhere now. And then once you've got the first few spacers out, it's just really easy to take out your tools, sort of one by one, take them out. And again, what you put on what side is entirely up to you. I've got it in a way which suits my preference, but everybody's got their own way of organising it. And yeah, I'll just quickly do all of this to show you how painfully easy this is to do. I think that another thing with designs is you don't want anything complicated. You want it to just be simple, easy to manufacture, intuitive, so which works every time in the most simple way, and it's really easy to assemble. And as you can see from the disassembly, it's a good sign from a disassembly that if you can disassemble it quickly, then assembling it is going to be pretty easy too. I'll leave the other side alone, there's no point in taking that apart. And then that's it. This is it, and this is the version I made very, very quickly in my shed. Took me about, I don't know, 15-20 minutes, because I already had sort of a template like this. I just measured the sides so that they were the same distance from the corner as the washers are that come in the kit, because I think that's really important. If you're worried about the plastic on metal, you can put a washer this side and just make this a bit thinner. But ultimately, I just wish this was made out of a nice, maybe 301 stainless. You can see how I did the corners. I just filed a 45-degree V shape into the corner, and it just folded nicely. Good thing about brass is it's malleable. You don't want to make this out of some like really super high carbon stainless steel, which would obviously snap. You want it to have a little bit of flex in it. And maybe, you know, if you've got really fancy, you could angle these tabs down a bit and blah, blah, blah. You know, there's probably a bit of room for work. It's definitely not going to deny that. But just look how easy this would be to actually make en masse for literally pennies. And then to assemble it, you just stick it in like that, and then you just go back as you want to. You put your washer on, you get your tool, and you just keep going. You don't have to put a washer on between each one. I am, because like I said, this one is for 3 spacers, but you don't have to. The only trick is you want to make sure that you actually get these the right way round, because at the moment they're facing this way, but when you flip this around, they'll come out the other way, and therefore you want the hooks and rakes to come up this way. So if you are assembling it the way I am, you want to have the should we just call the entrance, the opening here, facing you, and you want the tools to be pointing up like this, and then it should be fine. So there you go, we're all back together. And I know it took me over a year to make this first prototype, but I was thinking that realistically, now the summer's drawing closer, I'll probably make one of these for a 2-spacer, because I do prefer this to be a bit slimmer. But yeah, it's just a prototype, and it's a bit easier to work with bigger things when you're making them by hand using files and a rotary multi-tool and a hacksaw, which is the only 3 things I used. But yeah, I think that in terms of pros, you can imagine this actually looking really nice. Imagine the Covert instrument logo on there or something like that. It also adds a somewhere to put a key ring attachment, even if you don't have it on like a set of keys. You know, you could always put like a little rubber band around these if you want to keep them all together. But even if you weren't doing that, key loops can be very good, even when you're in a case, to just hook it on something inside a case so it doesn't rattle around a bit. So yeah, it looks nice. Got a really nice attachment. Pro tip, you can put like one of those little Velcro cable ties around these. Really, really useful. Or a rubber band, that works too. Another thing is that it actually really does work, and it works so simply as just to literally just flip this around. You can even keep the little key ring on, and you're all ready to go. I mean, that's it. You just grab your hook, fold it around, and it works. Like I said, it'd be nice to sort of angle this in so that it doesn't catch the plastic quite as much as it is here, but I don't have quite the right tooling to be able to do everything I wanted with this. And it would be really great to have this over thinner, like 301 stainless or something like that, so which is not too high carbon. And yeah, I would recommend some washers either side of this as well. But like I said, this is a handmade prototype. So yeah, I'd be really interested to know in the comments, do you think you'd want one of these on yours, assuming it was made better than this? Do you think it's useful? Do you think I've managed to just make a very quick, cheap improvement to the Covert companion? Let me know in the comments. I'd really like to know. I do read them all and reply to as many as I can. If you're Covert Instruments, you're watching this, again, great tool. And if you want to make one of these, feel free. Just give me some credit, and that's all I need. Just say that I came up with the design, and it's yours. I if anybody else wants to make one of these, you go ahead to. As long as you're not doing anything illegal, I'm all for it. I just want everybody to know that this is an option, and I think it is elegant and simple enough to be a good thing. And you can just see how easy, with the right manufacturing, it would be to just make something. Just make a little template like this, out of some steel, get the holes in the right place, done. This should be made for pence and sold quite cheaply, so that anybody with a Covert companion would be able to quickly stick one of these on, one and done. An improvement that actually might even make the thing not only look better but work better. Anyway, look, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like. If you have any comments, like I said earlier, leave them below. If you think I deserve your subscription, want to see more content like this, smash that subscription and the notification bell. It really helps my channel out, and I really appreciate it. Otherwise, stay safe, happy picking, and I will see you all next time.